So in the absence of a gavel this morning, I will open the meeting and welcome everyone to the City of Palm Coast Council Workshop. Today is Tuesday, August the 30th, 2022. It is now 9 a.m. and we are in the community wing of City Hall. So if you would all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to
the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And if the clerk would call the roll, please.
Mayor Alfin.
Present.
Vice Mayor Bronchino.
Right here.
Councilmember Danko.
Here.
Councilmember Finelli.
Present.
Councilmember Clufus.
Present.
All members are present, with Vice Mayor Bronchino appearing virtually.
Thank you. We'll now move to the public participation item on our agenda. And in order for city staff to be able to respond to your questions or concerns, please fill out a comment card with your contact information. The comment cards can be found on the table near the agendas or from the table in the back where all of the directors are seated. Public participation shall be held in accordance with Section 286.0114 Florida statutes and pursuant to the City Council's meeting policies and procedures. One, each speaker shall at the podium provide their name and may speak for up to 3 minutes. The public may provide comments to the City Council relative to matters not on the agenda at the times indicated in this agenda. Following any comments from the public, there may be discussion by the City Council. When addressing the City Council on specific enumerated agenda items, speakers shall direct all comments to the mayor, make the comments concise and to the point, not speak more than once on the same subject, not by speech or otherwise delay or interrupt the proceedings or the peace of the City Council, obey the orders of the mayor and the City Council, and not make any irrelevant, impertinent, or slanderous comments while addressing the City Council, which pursuant to council rules shall be considered disorderly. Any person who becomes disorderly or who fails to confine his or her comments to the identified subject or business shall be cautioned by the mayor and thereafter must conclude his or her remarks on the subject within the remaining designated time limit. Any speaker failing to comply as cautioned shall be barred from making any additional comments during the meeting and may be removed as necessary for the remainder of the meeting. So before we begin this morning's agenda item, I wanted to take a moment to explain the City Council's objectives for having workshops every month. The Council meets in workshops to be well informed of each item to be brought before the City Council and to make the best determination on behalf of all City residents. City staff presents detailed information during the workshops and provides a summary background for each item as well as any additional documents relative to the item. The City Council can then have a meaningful, collaborative, healthy discussion on each item presented. This way, facts and knowledge can be obtained prior to the next business meeting, where City Council then makes the best determination in the interest of the citizens' health, safety, and welfare on each item. As we continue to grow as a collaborative council and follow all council meeting policies and procedures, I will always do my best to make sure that every council member has an opportunity to bring forth individual opinions. Our constituents are expecting council to communicate cohesively and with civility to serve our community. The workshops are a valuable tool to present and discuss our individual opinions on behalf of all residents and achieve these objectives. We may not agree with each other, but that is one advantage of the workshops, to evaluate all the information necessary in advance of a decision, a motion, and a vote at our next business meeting. I hope that we all understand the purpose of these workshops, and I invite all opinions at all times on the dais. Just a note, I will entertain any and all public comments this morning. However, the workshop is focused specifically on the budget as the agenda shows. So if we're able to keep our comments relative to the budget, that would be appreciated. But again, I will entertain any and all public comments at the meeting today. So with that, I would open up for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to make a comment at this time? Yes, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Jeffrey Seib. The City of Palm Coast Comprehensive Plan is the instruction manual for how to put the city together. The vision statement and core values of the comp plan include exceptional quality of life, responsible growth, preservation of suburban character, and protection of natural resources. Goals, objectives, and policies are contained in the chapters. The regulations contained in the chapters are what the developers should follow. Now city staff wants to revise some of these chapters. The announcement declared there would be an emphasis on public involvement. The landscaping regulations contained in Chapter 11 have already been revised about 5 years ago. I attended every meeting of the 2 city committees that dealt with revisions to Chapter 11 back then. Take away special interests, attendance by the public was low, and the resulting revisions were not what I consider to be in the best public interest. So, if the city staff is going to make new revisions, city committees are not the mechanism for anything above a minimum public involvement. I would like to present 2 procedures to increase public information and input. First, before the commencement of any comp plan revisions, city staff should come to a council meeting and present a listing of revisions and the reasons for proposed changes. Members of the public attending that meeting, media attention, and watching the proceedings on media devices would let folks know what is going on prior to any further action. Second, the city needs to set a lower threshold of public involvement below which no action is taken on revisions. The city wants the public involved? Prove it. My number for an overall minimum public attendance would be 0.5% of the population of Palm Coast. I hope the City Council will consider these recommendations and truly allow residents to be involved in all of our future. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to address City Council at this time? Seeing no one step forward, I will close this portion of the agenda for public comment, and I would invite the first presentation. Ms. Alves, are you ready to proceed?
Yes. Good morning, Mayor, Council.
Morning.
We're here this morning to present to you your final proposed budget for fiscal year 2023. As you can see from our timeline, we've had numerous budget presentations and workshops have been held since April in preparation for your first public hearing. That will be September 8th here at 5:15 City Hall, and you'll be approving the 2022 revised budget as well as the tentative millage and tentative fiscal year 2023 budget. So at the beginning of our budget season, staff met with each department. City manager provided guidance to staff to set guidelines for this budget. We had to address 3 main goals: safe and reliable services, level of service measures relying on data-driven metrics, and succession planning. So with these goals in mind, the departments prepared their budget requests, which were then followed by several meetings with finance and the city manager's office to adjust as necessary before we were ready to present to council. In the departmental overviews to council, it was brought to your attention some of the challenges that the departments have been facing. These were the major hurdles: succession planning, establishing career progression while dealing with competitive job markets and employee turnover, price escalation, of course dealing with the inflation, approximately 8.5% year over year in July, as well as increased costs in various materials Some of the examples from your departments were fuel, chemicals, piping, and also dealing with supply chain issues affecting not only fleet, but also several other departments: water, wastewater utilities, stormwater, fire department. I think at some point, every department's been dealing with these issues. So I'll start off with the general fund revenues and expenditures, and then we're going to have each director presenting their department budgets. This is a big picture look at general fund revenues. Overall change, about $3.5 million. As council can see, ad valorem is the largest revenue source for the general fund. As discussed in July, the city's assessed value has increased by 19.7%, with approximately 5% attributable to new construction. So assuming the same millage rate from last year of 4.6100, we would generate an additional $5.3 million in ad valorem revenues. The portion attributable to new construction is approximately $1.2 million, so the $4.1 million balance is coming from existing properties. The half-cent sales tax, which, if you recall, is a portion of the state's 6% sales tax, that is projected to increase to $3.8 million. The state revenue sharing decrease of $400,000 is a result of the state estimate calculation methodology adjustment. This represents 55% of the allocated distribution, as the other 45% are deposited to the Streets Improvement Fund. The communication services tax estimates were released by the state last week, and they are projected to increase approximately $233,000. The only other significant change is in fund balance appropriations. Since the $2.5 million transfer to the Capital Projects Fund for the Maintenance Operation Complex in 2022 was a one-time transfer. The appropriated fund balance for fiscal year 23 is $750,000, and that is to fund the contingency to handle fluctuations in revenues and expenditures, as we have in the past, as well as the Value Adjustment Board contingency. We will move to overview of general fund positions. We are requesting 12 full-time new staff positions. There were no changes from your July presentations, and we will review these in the upcoming budget request slides. This is the big picture look at the general fund expenditures. As you can see, we have an increase of 7.1% overall. Council has received the detailed budget worksheets to support the numbers, and they were placed on the city's website for the public. I will review the administrative departments as well as non-departmental budget, and then each director will present their own budgets. The city manager, we'll start with city council. The $157,000 increase is mainly due to the changes adopted for council's compensation and benefits. The city manager's budget increase of $322,000, mainly due to position transfers from the Communications and Marketing Division and Economic Development Division. Those positions were the assistant city manager and a senior staff assistant. The city clerk's budget decrease of $3,000 is mainly due to decrease in estimated future costs for the Municipal Code Corporation as it relates to the codification of ordinances. The city attorney's budget increase of $50,000 is mainly due to the projected CPI increase of the city attorney's contract. Communications and marketing is increasing by $18,000. That is mainly due to the transfer of the senior staff assistant, offset by the request for a new communications specialist, as well as realignment of operating expenditures and increasing freelance communication part-time hours. Human resources budget is increasing by $250,000, mainly due to the new position requested for a risk management coordinator and moving the benefits coordinator from the health insurance fund. In the past, that position was split 60-40. Financial services budget is increasing by $241,000, mainly due to a new position request for a procurement coordinator. We will now go to non-departmental, the last line on that slide, and that budget is decreasing by $2.6 million, and that is the $2.5 million transfer for the Public Works facility from fiscal year '22. We're also proposing the contingency, as I said earlier, of $750 for the revenue expenditure fluctuations and value adjustment board. Kyle Berryhill will now review the fire department budget with council.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. Morning. The fire department plays a large role in executing the City Council focus area of safe and reliable services. In April of this year, Chief Forte and I presented an overview of the fire department detailing where we have been, where we are today, and how we are moving forward. A significant part of that discussion was the three-legged stool of effective fire service. Proper station locations, reliable apparatus and equipment, and well-trained staff with the right culture appropriately deployed. Although the proposed budget stands alone, it represents the next steps of your fire department's plan to meet the fire and emergency medical service needs of a growing community. The current budget reflects a push for staffing with 3 new firefighters for the ladder truck and an operational push on firefighter development led by the fire coordinator. In next year's budget proposal, we plan to continue our efforts to develop staff for the coming challenges associated with growth while addressing needs associated with reliable apparatus. The personal services increase reflects a full burden of the new firefighters for the ladder truck, 2 new firefighter positions to control overtime associated with minimum staffing, and a new inspector position designed to provide additional capacity and succession in the prevention division. The operating expenditures increase is largely indicative of issues associated with apparatus. First is a one-time increase of $640,000 to replace 2 engines in an attack truck. This makes up a gap experienced in the fleet replacement fund due to market conditions for fire trucks. As we noted during the fire department overview presentation earlier this year, this market is so demand-heavy that we are seeing a 2-year gap between placing our order and receiving the apparatus. Our fleet department has performed an analysis of the equipment in question, and making this investment now prevents further investment in apparatus that has reached a tipping point from a reliability perspective. This budget also includes an increase of $140,000 to the annual savings for fleet replacement to reflect the realities of the cost of today's apparatus. Finally, the national fuel situation is reflected in a $70,000 increase to the fuel budget and increases to the mowing and fleet allocations.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Kyle. We will now review the law enforcement budget. As you can see, the law enforcement budget is increasing by approximately $797,000, mainly due to the 5% contractual increase with the Flagler County Sheriff's Office, as well as 5 additional deputies requested, with 2 starting on October 1st and 3 starting in January 1st. We will now have Director James Hurst come and present the Parks and Recreation budgets.
Morning, Mayor and City Council. How's it going? Overall, Parks and Recreation has 5 budget areas. We are requesting a 10.9% increase, and that is primarily due to the escalating costs in propane, gas, chemicals. Also, we are looking at additional staffing, especially for our aquatic center, since on April 24th, it was directed by Council to open year-round, and then we want to work and address our career pathways and to reduce turnover and training costs for the department. I'm just going to briefly touch on a couple of the areas within Parks and Recreation. So again, the Palm Coast Aquatic Center, it was directed to open year-round, so we will see a bit of an increase in propane and chemicals. And then we're also looking to get an aquatics and safety specialist to help with our succession planning, but also help our supervisor over there as well. Another thing we'll touch on is the Palm Harbor Golf Club. It is known that our club has got the best fairways, greens around. So trying to keep that reputation strong, we need to do a couple of things with our fleet replacement. We have an old 1970, I think it was in the 70s, a Massey Ferguson tractor. So that's due for probably replacement right now. And then also just replacing the rest of our golf cart fleet. And then just for the tennis center, we're looking at a little bit of an increase, and that is just to bring the USTA men's 25 tournament back to the city of Palm Coast. Thank you.
You forgot to mention, we have the best sand traps there now as well at the golf
Yep.
course, right?
But he never hits his golf balls in those, so he wouldn't know.
Yeah.
Right, exactly right.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Oh, okay.
Thank you, James. Kevin Brinkley will now come and present the Public Works budgets.
Good morning, Mayor, members of council. I'm Kevin Brinkley. I'm the Public Works Coordinator, and I'll be walking you through the budget summary for our various divisions. First of all is our Streets Maintenance Fund. We have 2 new equipment operator positions being requested. This will help us address the enhanced levels of service for the increase in litter control that we are pushing for now, and also help us to deal with the increase in median detailing that has come online over the past year. In our Fleet Management Fund, we've budgeted for the addition of a Fleet Division Manager, which will provide an increase in strategic oversight for the planning in how we budget, how we maintain, and how we service our growing fleet. This position will complement our current fleet supervisor, who will maintain oversight of the operations of our maintenance facilities. This is a summary of our planned equipment purchases for the upcoming fiscal year. We began this year by reviewing 181 assets that were at the end of their amortized fiscal life, and we considered each of them for replacement. We've brought that 181 down to 43 assets that must be replaced, 4 fire items, and 26 new pieces of equipment that are tied to either new positions or new capabilities within one of our departments. Those are outlined on the screen in front of you. Some of the funds that you'll see in the fiscal year 23 planning is a carryover of about $2.5 million from our fiscal year 22 fleet purchases. Last year we had a much larger replacement window. We had 78 replacement vehicles and 16 new assets. We received about half of those, but due to shifting market conditions, we're still tracking for about 48 more we plan to receive in fiscal year 23. Moving over to our Facilities Management Fund. The increase in expenditures that you see are a reflection of the increases we've experienced in material costs and also our contractual services over the past year. Our Facilities Management Division oversees the janitorial contracts, the HVAC control systems, and the mechanical systems contracts for our city. Some of these contracts have seen increases over 10% year over year, so that's reflected in that budget. And then the Solid Waste Fund, in accordance with the City Council's established priorities, specifically safe and reliable services, number C4, the priority reads, on high-value service contracts, provide adequate quality control to ensure contractual compliance. In that theme, we have moved the solid waste contract into a division of our Public Works Department beginning this fiscal year. So we are budgeting for the addition of 2 positions, one being our solid waste supervisor, who will oversee the very important solid waste contract, and a field inspector who will be responsible for going out and verifying complaints while working with the vendors to correct anything that is not up to our contracted standards.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We will now move to Water, Wastewater, Utility. Steve Flanagan, Utility Director, will come present, and he wants the clicker.
I do? Did I?
There you go.
Thank you. Good morning,
He looks
Mayor.
like he has his Garfield tie on this morning.
This is my Notre Dame tie.
Okay.
Go Irish, by the way.
I was just trying to reel you into the city here.
Thank you. Like I said, good morning, Mayor, City Council, citizens. I'm here today to present to you the budget for the city's water and sewer utility. First up is our proposed additional staffing levels. We are looking at 7 total additional staff across all of our divisions, and we'll go into more detail here in the next slide. So those locations for the staffing are 2 wastewater collection technicians. This is the area of our highest demand for services regarding pump, PEP maintenance, mechanical equipment that is involved with the PEP systems are very heavy maintenance areas compared to the gravity sewer type systems. 1 water distribution technician. This is mostly geared towards a regulatory requirement from DEP. to maintain our backflow preventers, which is an important safety function to keep our water clean and safe. Next up is a metering foreman. We're looking to add this position to give our field metering staff some supervisory level field support based on their need to basically look towards a supervisor or a manager type person for different problems as they arise in the field. Right now, they don't have that in the field. They only have that through office support staff. Reclaim coordinator. This is an area that we're very limited in the availability of our services. We only have one technician that provides industrial waste services and controls basically our reclaim system out in the field. And recently, this person was actually asked to utilize their skills because there are also a certified plant operator with our wastewater systems. So they actually stepped up and aided our wastewater plant 2 when we were at very limited staffing level. Next up is water treatment plant number 2 operator. Water plant number 2 is unique from water plant number 1 and 3 in that it's basically 2 systems or 2 plants in one, and it's a much more labor-intensive facility to maintain based on that fact. So we're asking for one additional operator there to assist as well as meeting the demand of the additional flows that are caused based on our growth patterns. Lastly, but not leastly, is growth related as well. Quite a bit is a construction site inspector. This position is actually through the utility CM&E budget or the capital budget underneath Mr. Cody. So we're looking to have one additional inspector start there for our capital program. Next up is our overall operating fund summary. Adding up charges here for services, other revenue, and fund balance appropriations, we total up slightly over $57 million in total revenues for fiscal year 23. Expenditures are broken down into 4 main categories. That would be administrative services, wastewater operations, water operations, and non-departmental. Just a note here, we are currently in process of a thorough rate study to assure that proper funding is in place for our future community needs. Next up is the capital project fund summary. Some of the highlights here are FY23 will be a higher than average capital outlay year due mostly to a few specific high-level projects. Those are the expansion of wastewater treatment plant number 2 from a 2 million gallon a day facility to a 4 million gallon a day permitted facility. They are also, some of the other high-end jobs are the county funding of our wastewater force main expansion over on the beach side that's currently under design, as well as a small community improvement on the beach side funded by the county at Willow Woods. Capital outlay improvement highlights would be improve the lime sludge handling operation at water plant number 1, add additional thickener tank to water treatment plant number 2, replace the fuel storage tanks at water plants number 1 and 2, add a new 2 million gallon a day ground storage tank at water plant number 3, begin process of water treatment plant number 3 well field and plant expansion study design, new wells for water treatment plant number 1, growth related, begin payments for water main relocation at Marineland Acres on the beach side, install new water main at Willow Woods on the beach side. Almost all of these dollars are based on growth-related issues or items. Next up is the capital wastewater improvement summary. Highlights include provides for new residential home PEP tank assembly installations, upgrades at the wastewater treatment plant number 1 to several of the separate treatment functions, wastewater treatment plant 2 expansion, as we discussed earlier, to 4 million gallons a day, funded by a SRF loan. And then begin study of wastewater treatment plant number 1 expansion needs, 3 force main extensions totaling roughly $4 million of improvements, mostly funded by Flagler County, a reclaimed water main extension to the Indian Trail Sports Complex to provide irrigation to the ball fields at Indian Trails, and conversion of 2 old eductor-style pump stations to submersible-style pump stations. And that would conclude my portion. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We will now have Carl Cody present the stormwater and then capital budgets.
Yes, good morning. I'm going to be going over several slides related to our department, and then in some upcoming slides cover some of the capital funds that the city and our department manages. So on this slide, you'll see there's an increase in staff in the department of 6 staff members. The proposed additional staff are requested to enhance operational efficiencies, create depth, and provide succession planning, or meet additional regulatory requirements, or to bring staff in-house rather than paying for outside services. The survey crew chief position is a supervisory position to train and supervise survey staff, as well as stormwater maintenance staff. Survey operations will be more efficient, as there will be 2 survey crews of 2 staff members, with the supervisor filling in when staff is out sick or on vacation, resulting in no loss in service. The Resiliency Compliance Manager position is requested to oversee the city's MS4 permitting program. Each year, the regulatory requirements associated with this program expands. This position will also work on other state resiliency requirements, as well as pursuing grants for the city and programs and projects associated with resiliency. The Assistant Stormwater Manager position will provide assistance to the Stormwater Maintenance Manager, who currently oversees 36 staff members. 2 equipment operator positions are requested due to the change in the prison crew oversight. Previously, the city paid prison deputies to oversee prison crews with 1 city staff member on that crew. However, the state program has changed, and the prison no longer provides staffing and requires the city to have 2 staff members to oversee the prison crew. So previously, a crew of 8 is now limited to a crew of 5, so the cost of these 2 staff members will primarily be offset with the cost the city had previously paid the prison for the deputy oversight. It's really just a shifting of funds. The Stormwater Asset Supervisor position is to have a staff member oversee, manage, and upkeep the stormwater assets. Since the implementation of the Enhanced Stormwater Program, city staff has chipped away at compiling and consolidating all the stormwater asset information. However, this task is still incomplete and requires a dedicated staff member to finish compiling the data and then to manage the assets and oversee the inspection program and replacement and monitoring of where we're going in the future. So this slide here is the overall budget for the department, and you'll see that the primary increase in revenue for fiscal year 23 is due to the additional funding from the American Rescue Plan Act. The additional expenditures in 23 are associated with construction projects that were designed in 22, and they're going to be constructed in fiscal year 23. So this is the 5-year stormwater plan. Fiscal year 23 has a higher than average capital outlay, mostly due to projects that will be constructed with the bank loan that was obtained in 22, and then those additional rescue plan funds also for projects that will be constructed this year in 23 as well, upcoming year. Some high-level projects include the L4 and P1 weir replacements, pipelining, London waterway capacity improvements. In the future years, beyond 23, focus on maintenance and infrastructure upkeep. A rate study is currently underway to contemplate future stormwater enhancement projects and increased level of service. And one thing to make note of, in 23, we had some recent bids come in and projects that are obviously coming in above budget. So we are making a few changes to 23s between project line items. The overall budget amount is not changing. We're just shifting some dollars between projects to actually allocate to actual costs for construction. In particular, the most recent project is the L4 project that came in higher. It was a project that was bid. We only got one bidder who was high, so we came back to the engineers, did value engineering, rebid it, got multiple bids. It still came in high, so we had to shift some funds around to fully fund the project from another project. So now that project will need to be moved into part of our rate study analysis that is underway. Because originally the loan contemplated 5 major projects. We probably will only be able to get 4 of those done with the loan dollars. So from here we move on to the Capital Projects Fund. And you'll see that the priority project in this fund is for the maintenance operations complex. In the 5-year plan, other projects are limited to critical needs and facilities with IT infrastructure. These projects are identified and evaluated annually, incorporated into the 5-year plan. The Streets Improvement Fund is a slow growth revenue fund. However, the cost for the work has been going up much higher than the revenue coming in. The primary project in this fund is the street resurfacing program. City Council priority to complete the streetlight program is anticipated to be complete at the end of our 5-year plan in 2027. And during the current fiscal year, the city hired a firm to reassess the city's roadways, which were previously done in 2017, and we presented those findings to council a few months back. From this information, a long-range plan to maintain the current road condition was prepared for the arterial roadways and the residential roadways. It is imperative that an additional funding source be established. Currently, several projects have been deferred, such as beautification and sidewalks, and it is anticipated that the shortfall will only increase as the maintenance of other street-related items increase, such as traffic signals, age, and more rehabilitation of bridges and other street items will be necessary. So you can see at the bottom of the slide here that the major shortfall as we move forward. This is the fund where once the roads start to deteriorate, they go deteriorate quickly. So it's imperative that you get to them at that certain point, at that right part of the curve. The Transportation Impact Fee Fund is related to growth and capacity-related projects. There are numerous grants, primarily from DOT, associated with several projects. In fiscal year 23, the primary projects would be the extension of the Citation Boulevard, the design of the Matanzas to the west of US 1 and beginning construction, Whiteview safety improvements, and Belterre East Hampton intersection improvements. The Town Center Transportation Impact Fee Funds are to capture impact fees collected from development in Town Center. The Recreation Impact Fee Fund is related to growth and capacity-related projects. There are numerous grants from FIND, FDOT, FDEP. In this fund, impact fees can cover roughly 70% of the cost of new capacity improvements, with the balance coming from other funds such as the Capital Fund or SR 100 CRA Fund. The primary projects in fiscal year 23 is the construction of the Southern Recreation Center, the Lehigh Trailhead, as well as water access at Waterfront Park. The Fire Impact Fee Fund is related to growth and capacity-related projects. There are several transfers to assist with implementing the capital needs of the fire department's 10-year plan. City staff is in the process of obtaining a design consultant to perform design work for Fire Station 22 replacement and a new Fire Station 26 in Seminole Woods, nearby to the Citation Boulevard Extension project. American Rescue Plan Act funding has has been received and allocated to utility, stormwater, and fire item projects, and those transfers, you'll see those projects are identified in those various funds. The SR 100 CRA fund is primarily utilized to cover operating and debt service, as well as the repayment of the Kickstart program. There are several transfers to cover costs for non-capacity portion of projects that are located in the CRA. So you can see that there's numerous transfers, such as the Southern Recreation Center and the Trailhead project.
Thank you.
We will now move to Community Development, Chief Development Officer Jason DiLorenzo.
Good morning, Mayor, City Council. Morning. Jason DiLorenzo, Chief Development Officer. The Community Development Department is involved in all aspects of community investment. The Planning Division prepares for future investment. The Building Division makes certain the investment is safe. The Code Division ensures the investment is maintained to the standards expected by the citizens, and Economic Development provides support for our businesses and entrepreneurs that have invested in our community. We're going to look at personnel first. We have a few changes in economic development. As previously mentioned, 1 FTE has been transferred to the city manager's office. In planning, we currently have over 50 development projects in review, and right now all submittals, review comments, surveys, plats, bills of sales, and all related paperwork for those projects funnel through one site development coordinator. We are promoting a zoning technician to site development coordinator to help manage the projects and eliminate that pinch point. So we'll have 2, and that means we'll need a community development technician to take over that zoning technician's position that processes permits. If you remember, over the past couple of years, we have been moving from a single discipline building permit technician and zoning technician to the community development technician model, which can do, is cross-trained and can do both jobs. In code, there are no changes to personnel for this year. And in building, as I recently mentioned, we are now fully staffed. However, we continue to be extremely busy. Last month, we had our most single-family permits for the year, a little over 200, and that will then lead to additional inspections. So we are requesting 1 additional building inspector. These are the general fund budgets within community development. In the economic development budget is reducing by $72,000, primarily with that move in the FTE. This budget includes year 2 of the Rev Grant for Ground Up, and also a business survey to gather information about the health of our local businesses. In planning, the planning and site development budget is increasing due to the additional CDD technician I just mentioned, and $150,000 programmed for a consultant to assist with the comp plan rewrite. In code enforcement, the code budget increase includes an additional $20,000 for wildfire mitigation and just over $100,000 for debris and structure removal related to blight, something that we've been dealing with and we haven't had funding or a mechanism to take care of. And of course, fuel costs are also driving an increase for code inspectors and our animal control officers as well. In the building permits fund, the building department, as I mentioned, is extremely busy. 17,000 permits issued and 65,000 inspections performed so far this year. We need that additional inspector to keep pace with all of that work. And you'll remember you authorized a 50% reduction in building permit fees a few weeks ago. That's reflected here in that budget, in the change in revenue and the change in fund balance. And this budget also includes dollars for some office build-outs in the community development department with the related changes to our staffing. And that's all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your presentation.
We will now have Doug Akins present the IT budgets.
Good morning. For personnel for the upcoming year, we are requesting no changes to the enterprise fund and 2 new positions, a senior applications administrator and a cybersecurity administrator, which I'll touch on when we've reached that fund. So the IT enterprise fund is supported by revenues from cell tower leases and external use of the city's fiber network. The increase in revenue this year comes from an annual contractual escalators, revenues from the 2 new towers approved by council, as well as $200,000 in appropriated fund balance. The only major change from the current year's budget is $200,000 in appropriated fund balance to be used for consulting services to assist us in inventorying and documenting all the fiber and assets related to the city's network. This documentation is critical not only for the daily operation of the network, but also for planning for the necessary future maintenance. There was a question at the last meeting about cell tower consulting in the enterprise budget, and there is no line specifically allocated for that because historically that's been tied to the leasing process for cell towers. In the IT Internal Services Fund, the IT department is requesting 2 new positions to assist with the maintenance and administration of the city's various software platforms and to bolster our cybersecurity efforts. Same as other departments, we are seeing an increase in cost in technology hardware and some software renewals. Recent projects to upgrade critical software and to secure the utilities technology infrastructure have caused additional maintenance costs reflected in this budget. The increase also reflects the transfer of some existing purchases from other departments' budgets into IT's as we continue to work towards centralizing technology purchases for a more accurate picture of the organization's technology costs. Some additional funding has also been included to assist us in both understanding and strengthening our cybersecurity positioning. Our final budget is the IT Emergency Communications Fund. This fund supports the 800 megahertz radios used mainly by fire, utility, and the public works departments. The increase in this year's budget includes an increase to the per subscriber fee we pay to the county of just over 7.5% per device. It also includes an increase in the allocation that is made each year to prepare us for a future upgrade of the system. The purchase of new radios in response to new position requests accounts for most of the remaining difference in this year's increase. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
We're back. Thank you, Doug. I will now review all of the remaining funds. The CDBG fund accounts for several programs, including housing rehab and CARES assistance to the community. Community development has presented to council in great detail items that are included in the CDBG plan. This is the budget to support that plan. The department is currently working with the state to transfer the balance of the neighborhood stabilization program fund. You can see there it's $121,000 to transfer that to the CDBG program. The police education fund is used for specialized deputy training. These funds are collected from fines within the city through the clerk of court and then submitted to the sheriff's office. The disaster reserve fund is used to account for any federal assistance, usually associated with hurricanes. More recently, it was used for CARES funding. We don't budget for disasters. The operating cost of $1,150 is for the insurance on the established debris site. Now, council has established a reserve to mitigate potential cash flow issues that could be created between the occurrence and the actual reimbursements from FEMA, and the current balance in the disaster reserve fund is approximately $3.4 million. The Special Events Fund is funded with the recycling revenue from our solid waste contract and provides for events and programs for the residents. The Old Kings Road Special Assessment Fund reflects the assessment collected from property owners, and it is used to pay back the principal and interest on the loan. And our health insurance fund is where we account for costs related to our employees' health benefits. It includes claims, administration fees, stop-loss insurance, wellness program, and other related expenditures. For fiscal year 23, we are moving 40% to FTE from this fund to the human resources in the general fund. So this is the big picture look at all fund expenditures. As you can see, the total for all funds is approximately $329 million. This represents an increase of 29.4% from your fiscal year 2022 adopted budget. The bulk of the increase, $53 million or 71%, is accounted for in 5 funds, which are utility capital, our capital projects, fleet, recreation impact fee, transportation impact fee, and the American Rescue Plan Act. We will now go over the truth and millage, the TRIM. This graph shows the history of the city's population growth and the ad valorem tax revenue collected from 2007 to 2022. As you can see, there was a significant decrease in ad valorem revenues during the recession period, and it was approximately 10 years between 2008 and 2018 for the revenue to catch up. We have been experiencing increase since that period. This is the history for the last several years for millage rate, property values, receipt collected, and population. As you can see, we have been experiencing an increase in property values as well as population growth. The fiscal year 2023 values are based on the property appraiser's July 1st valuation and are assuming the same millage rate from fiscal year 2022 of 4.61. This is a look at how a dollar is split between the taxing authorities. For every dollar in ad valorem taxes paid, Flagler County receives 44 cents, school board 30 cents, City of Palm Coast 23 cents, and other taxing districts share the remainder 3 cents. So it's important to note that we receive approximately 23%. So this is a look at your millage rate options. Your rollback rate is 4.0138. The fiscal year 2022 adopted rate was 4.61. Your adopted maximum millage rate was 4.61, and the fiscal year 2023 proposed rate is 4.61. Your next steps are to adopt the tentative fiscal year 2023 budget, millage rate, and the revised fiscal year 2022 budget at the first public hearing on Thursday, September 8th at 5:15, and then follow with a final public hearing, which is scheduled for Wednesday, September 21st, also at 5:15 here at City Hall. This concludes our presentation, and I will take questions.
Thank you for your presentation. It was my error not introducing Mr. Bill Reichman, who is standing in as city councilor today while NASA is away. So, Bill, thank you for returning. Good to see you. Help me with this. I see another item on our presentations. Is that a separate item to be presented, or item number 2?
Your next item is to review the proposed fleet requests for fiscal year 2023. You will be approving that resolution at your final public hearing. So that's the resolution that goes with the budget that was presented by Kevin Brinkley.
So this is a continuation of the presentation we just had. So we'll finish up the presentations, and then we'll come to City Council. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
Looks like double duty today.
Just to be sure, yes. So the second part of it there, Mayor and members of council, you have before you the background summary, the resolution, and the supporting documentation for our fiscal year 23 planned fleet purchases. To summarize, as a part of our annual budget process, each year we conduct an assessment of all of our fleet assets. We pay specific attention to the vehicles and the equipment that have met or exceeded their expected estimated useful life. This year we inspected over 181 items that had met that criteria. After that inspection, any fleet vehicles and or equipment that were determined to need replacement have been included in this fiscal year 23 fleet replacement schedule for the upcoming budget year. In addition to the replacements, new fleet vehicles and equipment are also included in the fleet fund budget for fiscal year 23. Our recommendation contained in this resolution is for the replacement of 43 assets, 4 fire items, and the purchase of 26 new assets as outlined in the exhibits you have before you. One note, the background summary that is in the council packet reads the replacement of 46 assets and the purchase of 30 new, but we've since been able to trim that down to 43 replacement assets and 26 new. In order to properly execute this process at the best value to our citizens, we propose using several purchasing methods this year. Those methods would be piggybacking on existing state and national contracts, as well as sole source agreements and the collection of competitive bids. And we've outlined each of those proposed methods there in the summary sheet.
So this is a resolution. Does it need to be read into the record because it's a workshop? Not today, right? Just a workshop. Very good. Does that conclude?
That's it.
Very good.
Thank you, Kevin.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. And I'll, in just a minute, I will open it up to City Council for comment, questions, all of that. I think I'll start it off. I have now reviewed every line item in every spreadsheet in the budget that has been presented. I have met with staff. I have had each of my many questions answered, and I think it appropriate for me to offer my position on the budget today, and then open up to my fellow council members to comment on the presentation today. You have a slide for me? And I have some comments that I've prepared. President Ronald Reagan once said, "The greatest leader is not necessarily the one who does the greatest things. He's the one that gets the people to do the greatest things." I underscore President Reagan's words, as I believe it is my responsibility to guide Palm Coast to the greatest things for us now and for our future generations. In my tenure as your mayor, I have made it clear that I am not afraid to make gutsy and sometimes unpopular decisions so long as my research and experiences guide me to believe that these decisions are in the best interest of the residents of our city. We are experiencing healthy growth across our community and in our home values this year, and it's time for City Council to make some very tough decisions and maintain the same millage rate as the past year to maintain the quality of life in our city while we invest in our future. The City of Palm Coast's annual budget process is complex and transparent, supported by the highest levels of oversight and due diligence. Smart, managed growth requires planning, personnel, and procedure alongside the process. Blending these together equips us for success. A few months ago, each council member determined their strategic action plan, priorities, to meet the needs of our citizens. We each prepared a shopping list of our most important items. Now, as we implement these priorities, we cannot simply roll our shopping cart full of priority items to the checkout counter and suddenly ask to pay less. These items are needed to address complex aging infrastructure with funds and resources so we can remain financially and structurally secure into the future. What happens when we have issues with weirs, pep tanks, sidewalks, water pipes? We can't go backwards now and try to catch up later. It's our responsibility to maintain our community in the same manner we've come to expect and deserve. Still, other items in our shopping carts need a suitably funded compensation to support for existing city employees and new positions required for our departments. Their duties are becoming more intricate and laborious with the addition of thousands of new residents across all neighborhoods and the expansion of our footprint westward. City staff has never let us down whether it be massive growth or major health pandemic challenges. Council must never let them down as we progress prosperously to our future. And with so many new Palm Coast residents, city communications becomes even more important than ever. Our public needs to know about our important decisions being made on their behalf. They need to trust what we do for them. Sound communication helps residents feel heard by their city government and elected officials. When I think of Palm Coast, I think of a slice of paradise. Living in a safe, clean, and well-functioning city comes with a price. In our private lives, we pay for increased costs to prepare our homes or fill our gas tanks. Our city must have the ability to do this too. For nearly 94,000 residents and growing. And where are we growing? We are on the doorstep of one of the most important opportunities in our history. Plans are in motion this year to unlock 40,000 acres present and future city property, a few miles west of US 1. Westward economic expansion is the solution to financial sustainability. It is a monumental step forwards, welcoming more industries, hospitals, research centers, pharmaceutical companies, and cloud-based businesses to the city. We reap the benefits of these new businesses as they will carry a fair share of the tax base. It is extremely important that these businesses trust that our city is sustainable and financially secure. Families who live here now, parents and grandparents, are tasked with making sure their children, our children, will grow up living securely in Palm Coast without the burdens of crumbling infrastructure or inefficient funds. Our leadership requires the courage to maintain our millage rate to benefit our next generations. Anything less is nothing more than a temporary Band-Aid that panders for attention. We all get one chance to do this right, and that chance is now. I therefore will vote in favor of city staff's recommendation and approve a millage rate equal to last year's value of 4.61 mils. And I ask my colleagues on the City Council to stand alongside me. Smart managed growth is the long-term remedy, providing financial sustainability for Palm Coast and reduced future tax increases to residents. Together, let's do something truly right for our citizens now and for generations to come in Palm Coast. I thank you for your kind attention, and I'll just summarize briefly, and I think I will actually invite a friend to help me. I'm going to take a liberty here and summarize the complications of the budget process that we are nearing a conclusion. I will borrow the theory of the balance required in a three-legged stool theory. You'll see before you a stool on which our friend Garfield rests comfortably. You'll see a green leg, which represents the revenue produced by the ad valorem tax rate. You'll see a red leg, which represents the expenses of our operations. You'll see a golden leg. That golden leg is the quality of life that we all enjoy. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that if we are to reduce the revenue needed to keep our quality of life stable, the result is very simple. That's what happens to the balance of the budget. So I think I've made that clear. So with that, I end my presentation and my comments. You all know where I stand at this point. So I open up comments, questions to staff and to City Council.
Sure. Absolutely, very well said, and I appreciate not only the visual aspects of your words, but it is incredibly meaningful that we understand that in this environment there are rising costs included in keeping the quality of life of the city of Palm Coast where we expect it, and I think that our staff and our management has done a tremendous job ensuring that we don't have we're running a very tight ship around here. We have been for years, and it's incredible that we continue to get this level of service out of the budget that we have. Every day I'm thankful for the staff and how hard they work to ensure that the dollar of our taxpayer is spent to the maximum efficiency and we are able to extract out the maximum amount of quality of life from that dollar. So I'm with you, Mayor. I understand exactly where you're coming from and what it takes to keep the quality of life in Palm Coast to the level that not only people who live here, but people who are investing here and are moving here expect for us to maintain.
Thank you for your comments, gentlemen.
That was a nice demonstration. Unfortunately, though, it doesn't represent reality, because what's not on your three-legged prop is all of those senior citizens that we have out there, all these people on fixed income, and we have a large population of people on fixed income. And I hear from these folks every day. They're feeling the pain at the pump. You know, they're feeling, you know, they're squeezed at every direction. You know, with this inflation, the cost of everything going through the roof, just like we are as a city. And yeah, you know, we do a really remarkable job with what we have, and I commend our staff. However, we have a $250 million a year budget. I see no reason we cannot roll this millage rate back and give a little relief to those folks in our community. And I realize for all those folks that are homesteaded, it's not a lot of relief, but if every taxing group we had did a full millage rollback, I know on my house, I would save over $400 a year. That's a chunk of change that you could spend in our local stores. People can use to pay these increases with. Now, there are folks out there that actually would need that $400, that would appreciate that $400. I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote for this millage rate. I'm going to vote for the full rollback on this millage rate, because if we can't get through 1 year and offer some relief to our citizens, we're not doing something right. They're not able to increase their budget at home. They can't just say, give me more money on their fixed incomes. They've got to live within them. And we are hurting these people by voting for this budget as it stands now.
Thank you. I appreciate your comments, Councilman Danko. Councilman Finelli?
So I've spent a lot of time reviewing our budget book, looking over tax statements, and having conversations with members of the city and with community members. And it's hard. I don't think there's anybody up here that wouldn't like to roll back taxes for everybody. I mean, who wouldn't want to do that, right? I think that's a great thing. But I also think that we have to look at the quality of service and care that we provide to our residents, and are we willing to sacrifice that in rolling back our taxes? So I always look at a balance. I think there's always a way to make both ends meet, but I'm not willing to do that at the sacrifice of the quality of our city. But I also understand the predicament that it puts our senior residents and some of our younger families in in increasing them in a time where they may already be burdened with increased other expenses in the home, such as costs of groceries and gas. So this has been tough. When I looked at it, and I looked at it for several hours last night, I woke up early this morning, looked at it again, because it is a very tough decision. And it's not about being more fiscally responsible with the money we have, because the city is doing an amazing job with that. I don't think they could squeeze that dollar any tighter. They're doing a wonderful job. Now we're looking at, do we reduce or remove services to roll back our millage rate? And I don't know that, that we want to start sacrificing quality of life here on Palm Coast to be able to do that.
Thank you, Councilman Finelli. Councilman Branchino, can I invite you for a comment?
Yes, absolutely. Mayor, thank you for the fortitude that you had, and see that this trim has to stay where it is in order not to cut what we need, quality of life. I read from someone behind the dais not long ago that he wanted some of the city departments to do more with less. I find it interesting, borderline hypocritical, that we asked for 370% raise, settled for 150, and now we're asking every department to do more with less. I simply find it hypocritical. And all of those behind the dais that actually agree with the 4.61, you got my vote on that, in the interest, in the name of the people of Palm Coast that elected us to do the best for them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Branchino. I would invite city council members, in the spirit of a workshop, to, at this time, ask staff are there any specific questions that they can come back, that they could highlight, because we'll go through this conversation, obviously, again, in the 2 future dates. So can you point to anything specific that you might want staff to elaborate on? Councilman?
I did have one. The appropriated fund balance contingency of $750,000 in what we're in right now in these very uncertain times. Is that enough with the varying material costs and everything? Are we cutting that short?
That is a great question. So if we had to go beyond that $750,000, we would bring it back to City Council. That is what is outlined to use within the city manager's approved budget. So if there was any need beyond that, we would bring it to council.
Nope. My concession for this budget is, I know we pushed out one of my strategic action plan items I was very adamant about, which I'm completely okay with. As far as the solar feasibility studies, I think we've made a concession. We're going to be kind of looking at that as we construct the Lehigh Trail and the Southern Recreation Center here in Palm Coast. So I was thankful for staff for being able to compromise in a creative way that we're still going to get to the end of the goal eventually, and we're going to make progress as we move towards that, but we're going to be able to move that budget item out. So that was a concession that we had made.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Dega, any final comment? Wait till because we'll be going through the discussion again. Very good. City Man, yes, sir.
One more quickly. The Lehigh Trail and the Southern Recreation Center, can you just clarify that none of the money for that is coming out of ad valorem taxes?
That is correct. It is being funded from non-ad valorem revenues.
Excellent. Thank you.
I have been preaching that from the top of the hill. Thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Let me just finish off our comments. I did have, and not for answer now, but maybe you'll bring it back as a note next time. Could you just summarize the county-funded projects? I'd like to know how much money that is, just a brief identification and the dollars associated with it. Also, just a clarification. Do each of the departments have or not have a reserve contingency?
They do not have
They do not.
reserve
Okay.
contingency, no, sir.
And finally, The only other question I had was the increase in the city manager's budget. I understand that has to do with personnel moving from one to another. It wasn't clear to me as I went through the spreadsheets where the offsets or the decreases are identified in the other department or departments they came from. That's something you can catch up with me on. That's more of a accounting information I was looking for. And City Manager, did you want to comment on the budget process? You can have other comments at the end, but.
Thank you, Mayor and City Council. First of all, I want to say a professional thank you for working with each of the council members on their concerns and questions along the way. As we started this presentation, our team focused on the long road we've had, right? It started very much at the early part of the calendar year, and you don't actually see the three budgets coming in line at the same time. Working with the past year's budget, managing the existing budget, and planning for the future budget. So my comment is, has already been, excuse me, echoed. We have a brilliant team. They did a stellar job of working with challenges that we forecasted to an extent, but not to the magnitude that you heard through the showcase presentations and again today. And to have such a professional approach to handling these challenges, I'm extremely proud. And again, I appreciate City Council working with staff along the way.
Thank you, City Manager. So at this point, we're concluded our presentations. I will open up the agenda for public comment. Are there any members of the public that would like to comment? Please step forward. And just identify yourself for our record, please.
Yes, good morning. My name's Amy Listowski. I'm new here in Palm Coast since February 2021. I'm actually also a real estate broker. Me and my husband, we moved here with the intention of working for a few years and retiring. Sorry, I don't usually speak in front of everybody. I want to thank you. You have a beautiful city. We really love it here, and I see everybody does a lot of hard work. What I am noticing is you're working to keep the millage rate where it is, but the property values have increased so much that people are being hurt. And Mr. Danko is right. There's an outrage online. Your citizens are very upset. And my husband and I are actually facing more than a 34% increase. And I don't know why I'm upset. I just don't talk in public like this. So I'm here for the citizens and to say that, and I think more of them would be here if they knew this meeting existed. On our trim notices, you mentioned September, and by then it's pretty much too late for you to roll this all back. They don't know about this meeting and that they could come today. After seeing so many people upset, I did a lot of researching and I saw that anybody who moved here since the beginning of 2021 has been hit very hard. We bought a modest house, 1,886 square feet in the C-section. Our taxes are going to be more than $8,000. That's more than we were paying in New Jersey. I know that people with their 3% cap are doing much better, and they've been here longer, and that's wonderful. And I know that people that didn't have homestead have a 10% cap. And I did see people with a duplex that, you know, their taxes on a duplex on a non-homesteaded investment property are actually paying less than we are to be homeowners. What's scary is that this is a big city and it's very costly and you're doing a great job. But not increasing the millage rate is not enough when the values increase to hold our taxes to something affordable. And I think going forward, that's really important for you to consider because there's so many people that are now talking about leaving. And you could be facing what you faced in 2008 where you don't have the revenue. And they're building here, and I don't know if you've noticed, but the market has slowed down very, very much. I actually have 3 listings, and nobody's looking to see them. That's scary. People want to move and need to move for work, and they can't. So I'd like you to consider the citizens and what we're paying, and that what Mr. Danko said, we're very heavily burdened. So please, be fiscally responsible and help us. Okay?
Thank you for your
you.
comment. The next speaker, please.
Good morning, Mayor. Gene Dowd, Palm Coast resident for 8 years, or 6 years, house 8 years. I get up here and I thank everyone, and I mean that. Each time I try not to forget, but this time I'm going to be specific again, and that is the park staff. That gentleman smiles all the time. I ran into him a lot the last 4 weeks. I had an 8-year-old granddaughter stay with us, and she used the pool, she used the tennis lessons, she used Taco Tuesday, and on and on and on. And she was so pleased with what the town offers, and I can't agree with her more. I'd also like to thank everyone, all first responders. I always forget the military because I am a vet and I feel odd about that. But from the veterans, law enforcement, fire, EMTs, thank you for your service. I got up here a couple of times before I understood what a city council or a strong city manager is, and I regretted a couple of things I said in the past. But I have to tell you that we shouldn't have a city manager or a director of any departments if they're going to come with a budget that is not needed. I know it's tough, I get it, but the city manager and the directors, that's their job to make recommendations. And as I understand it, this is a strong city manager structure where the city council meets with the directors individually and the city manager. And I fully endorse the city manager and the directors, because if I didn't, then I am not any better than I was a year ago when I had a lot less to say and more sarcasm. Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Dowd, we thank you for your service and thank you for your comment. Are there any other members of the public that would like to comment to City Council at this time? Seeing no one, I'll close the final public participation item on our agenda, and I will come back to City Council. Any final comments for today?
No, sir.
I have none.
The only comment I would make is that we understand that there is more turbulence in the Atlantic, and I want to reinforce everyone's commitment to preparation for hurricane season. We're not nearly through the end of it yet. I know I will personally go through training immediately to make sure that I'm as well prepared as I can be. But I would ask every single resident to please think about it and do your best to be ready and have a plan so that we can all be safe and secure regardless of what Mother Nature throws our way. So with that, I would go next to our very quiet city attorney today for any final comments.
How about the vice mayor?
Oh, I apologize. Sorry, sir.
No problem. No problem.
Councilman Branchino, please.
Very good. I just have one thing. I'm pretty sure that my colleagues also got an email from Mr. James Manfrey regarding the possibility of us opening our own law department. And they had spoken to you and to the city manager. You care to elaborate on that now, or you think this is not the proper time to do so, sir?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the question.
The question is, that was a preamble. We received, I'm pretty sure my colleagues also got it, an email from Mr. James Manfrey, an attorney, that when he says that he spoke to you regarding the possibility of opening our own law department, if I may. So due to the fact that this is a workshop, is this the proper time to ask you, do you wish to elaborate on this conversation regarding this email, or is this not the proper time to do so, sir?
So technically, final city council member comments are for items that were not part of the agenda. So my question to you is, do you consider this a part of the budget discussion or a separate item?
It could be. It could be part of this because it involves money. It could be.
So
like I said, what I'm saying is that maybe if this is not proper, then I'll wait for the right time to ask. I'm not making a thing. I just wanted to know what was going on. That was it. And I just got that email. That's the reason why I asked.
So my recommendation, the choice is yours. You can certainly comment on your item now, although it's not technically appropriate if it was, because it is, I guess, part of the budget decision, or you could bring it forward at our next meeting. It's entirely up to you, Councilman.
Now, my only thing, and I'm not being facetious about it, I just wanted to know if you have any extra comments on this, or you rather wait for the proper time to do so. That was the only thing.
Okay. I have no comments. Council members? Councilman, there are no comments at this time, so I invite you to make comment at our next meeting if you feel that's appropriate. Okay?
Good.
Very good. Now to our very quiet city attorney today,
Who shall remain very quiet.
who has no comments for today. And city manager, do you have any final comments for today?
No, thank you, Mayor.
Very good. Then with that, I would ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.